Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It helps out the show a ton. And you can follow us on Instagram.
Enjoy. Start that thing. All right. You got to do the clap.
What? Oh, yeah. Here we go. That's for the sound. You know what, though? It's better if it's like head on.
What if you just clap the microphone?
The first time he said he was going to do the clap, I thought it was a butt cheek thing.
I never thought about that at all. Not even one time. Yeah, you guys do look huge. I look so much smaller because of the fish eye. Look at this thing.
Well, I am 6'4", and so when you're 6'4" and this tall,
yeah, Josh is just scooching forward.
As fucking close in there as possible. All right, welcome to two big ass dudes and this guy.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Red Gauge Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Kyle. This is Josh, and our first in studio. Oh man, I hit the microphone. That's gonna be a big thumping noise. And our first in studio guest, Gable Lacy.
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, Gable. Just a couple. Just like a, stay there. Don't get. I'll fix it later. We'll fix it in post.
We're gonna just make it way louder.
Yeah. Amplify it as much as it'll go. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Nice.
Yeah. Just got off work.
Yeah. And what is it that you do for a living, Mr. Lacy?
I am the high school athletic trainer at Shelton High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so start middle of my second year there.
Yeah.
I've heard of that place, Shelton High School. It's in Mason County. It's up there north of Olympia. Yeah, I've heard of that place.
About 20 minutes, yeah.
It exists.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So.
How did you get into being an athletic trainer?
Well, I didn't know I wanted to be an athletic trainer probably till junior year of high school.
Yeah.
Okay, high school. I was going to say, did you know it even existed?
Well, I had an idea of what it was just because I was always hurt.
Right.
But I was always hurt, and I would talk to an orthopedic surgeon.
Uh-huh.
And so I would be my sophomore year. I don't know if Coach remembers. He's my football coach at the time. That's how old he is. And so I tore my meniscus in the middle of the week 3 of sophomore year of high school playing football. And I went to the doctor, and I spoke with an orthopedic surgeon. That's the first time I was really evaluated. Prior to that, I was like, Ray Walt will look at my knee. I was like, I guess let's just go to the doctor. And so
he's like, it's still there.
Yeah. He just tested my knee.
Thing's clicking. Give me your pens. No more pens
I
for you.
got to mess with
it. Give me that other pen. No pens. Give it back. I'll get you a silent fidget of some kind.
I have to do. Okay, I'm gonna be doing this the entire time now. Okay.
Right.
But I went to the orthopedic surgeon and
for a set of keys.
They looked at it and then did all the tests, and I basically worked with him for about a couple weeks trying to get ready for surgery and then PT after that. And then he talked about, hey, do you have a trainer at the high school that we can work with to work with the rehab? I was like, no, what are you talking about? It's like, there's no trainers at Shelton High School.
Is that a normal thing?
Yeah, that doesn't happen at Little Shelton High School. And so he's like, well, instead we're going to have to send you to PT every day. And so I just went to PT downtown at Greg Folling's place.
Yeah,
Total Health
I've been to
Therapy.
Greg. Greg is good. Yeah.
Free
plug
Greg.
for Greg. Way to go, Greg.
Shout out to Greg. And when I was there, it was great, but I was still in a clinic. It's like, okay, I can't go do my rehab during practice. So I go sit outside wrestling practice in the winter after I had surgery a month ago and sit there on the mat doing knee exercises.
Yeah.
And maybe did it once a week.
Right.
And so it was like no one there to make sure I'm doing it right. No one there to see if I'm progressing at all. And so I just went to Greg twice a week. But prior to that, I didn't have anyone to kind of help with that. And so
it always feels to me, I've had a lot of injuries, and it always feels to me like there's the period of like, oh, I'm hurt, and your capacity basically drops to like nothing or 5% or whatever. Yeah. And then you start doing the rehab, and you kind of relearn how to use everything that's shut off and get strong and get to feel safe and everything. And then at some point you have to make the jump back into doing your sport. And that always feels like you're standing on the edge of a cliff with no safety line.
Yeah.
You know, is there anything like, has that been your experience too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It's like I was on crutches for basically a month and a half. And so I got surgery November 3rd. I still remember the date somehow. And middle of December, I was still on crutches. And so by that point, my entire left calf had fully atrophied.
Yeah.
My leg quad, everything was fully, like I lost all the muscle mass from workout. And so having to get back into that, because I didn't start doing any activity until really end of February.
Yeah.
And so it was like 3 months off, and it's like, okay, your muscles are all gone. And so, and I wasn't great with my rehab. My athletes that I work with now are way better, but I was terrible with it, and so it just took forever. And it really did feel like, okay, this is dumb. I used to be able to squat so much, and now I have a hard time bending my knee to 90 degrees. And so that was really frustrating. But yeah, it took a long time, and then I started to get back in a wrestling match, and I still, my dad could say to this, is I would still kind of really lean to one side, trying to protect it. And my legs wouldn't bend all the way when I try and shoot in a wrestling match, which that doesn't work well. Good luck then, right?
Yeah, you leave your hips up, somebody might just go tossing you, right?
Right. So,
was your prescription, because that wasn't too terribly long ago?
Yeah, that was sophomore year, so it was like 2014.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Has like the prescription for rehab changed a bunch since then?
I can only speak from, I haven't dealt with a ton of meniscus injuries.
Right.
I've probably dealt with 4, and each one is kind of dictated by the patient. We're a lot faster with getting range of motion back. Like I remember I had my knee brace stuck.
Right. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Water everywhere. I had my knee brace stuck at no extension for like a month.
Yeah.
I would just sit there and I was like, okay, now we're trying to gradually get that back a little sooner. And so like when I have kids hurt with like their ankle, we're trying to do rehab the exact same day.
Yeah.
We're trying to move it and get it moving.
Right. Yeah.
Just what I was taught at school, and so.
Yeah.
But most of the time I'm just following doctor's orders.
Yeah.
And if they say no rehab, then I just wait. But I'm trying to get it moving as fast as I can.
Yeah, I know when my son just broke his arm a little while ago, and they only had him in a cast for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it was a soft cast for a little while, but he could take it off whenever he was stationary. And getting a 9, 10, 11-year-old to comply with, like, hey, you shouldn't be climbing trees and you should have your soft cast on was really difficult. But I also know, I've read, and maybe you probably know the numbers better than I do, but like the amount of time that it takes to recover atrophied like ligament strength and stuff after just like 6 weeks of immobilization is pretty incredible. Like it was like 9 to 18 months or something in the one study that I saw.
It was, the studies I've seen, it's anytime like 3 to 9 times as long as it took. So if you work out for a month, everything you just gained, if you were out for a month, it'd take you 3 months to get that back.
Yeah.
And so at the minimum.
Right.
So,
best case.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been really interesting to see. I know when I tore my bicep tendon a year and a half ago or whatever, I started like the same day trying to do curls, but with I would hold it my other arm just to keep it through the range of motion and like stretch it out and stuff, and then graduated to like curling a razor and then like an empty shampoo bottle or whatever,
grabbing a coffee mug out of the top shelf.
Yeah, that was it took a while to get there, but that was a really fun build up, was to get to 3 sets of 20 with an empty shampoo bottle and then try to do one that was like a quarter full.
Progress.
Pretty close to your max, really.
Yeah. Even now.
Come on. Yeah.
Especially with how short you are. It's surprising you that
shampoo bottle. I mean, look how small you are. Come on, man.
So tiny.
Can't be like us.
Your shoulders are like a foot wide right now.
I know. It's ridiculous, right?
I really like this. So let's fast forward. You're injured. Like, did you already know you wanted to go? You went to WSU?
I guess I never even really. Yeah.
Like, was that you wanted to go to WSU, or was that picked because you wanted to go specifically into athletic training?
And so like, I guess going back to that experience of me being hurt, I realized that I wanted to be someone that could help high schoolers go through that situation faster. Instead of, okay, you go to the PT 2 days a week. Hopefully it's a great PT like I had, and it's great, but the other 3 days you're on your own.
Right.
Listen, as the other side of the coaching piece here, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I would just have to be like, I don't know what's wrong with your foot.
Right.
Don't stand on it. And so now I can just be like, just go.
Yeah. And so that middle of junior year, I was like, okay, this is what I kind of want to do. And so I took some sportsmen in high school. I was okay, let's go. And so I looked up what athletic training campuses or degrees were in the state of Washington, because I wanted in-state tuition. I'm pretty cheap. I don't want to spend extra money at all if I can. And so it was like, UW doesn't have an undergrad program. They only have a master's. So you have to go somewhere else first to come back or take some
nursing. Do their pre-med nursing type thing.
I'm not doing that. Like, and so it was like WSU or Eastern or like Whitworth. It was like, okay, I'm just going to go to WSU. And so never been anywhere close to Pullman before, and so I just got there and went to work. But
started taking classes.
Yeah. The first year was not fun at all.
Yeah,
but I was a really big nerd, and so I literally went to class every day. I think I skipped one period, one time the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my daily was like, okay, go to class, get food, come back, study. The same thing, like exactly what they tell you to do. I just did it. Like,
imagine that, and you were successful.
Yeah, but I literally no parties. My weekends was go visit Caitlin in Bremerton or Cheney or whatever, go home, or go to Spokane and visit my uncle.
Yeah,
and my aunt. And so that was every 3 weeks I would rotate. And so I had like 1 week in a month I was in Pullman, just sitting there playing like the old Madden from a year before or something, or like I think I played Far Cry. I never played it before, but that's all I did.
Yeah.
And so I literally just grinded the entire time.
Yeah.
And so
you're a lot better off.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Yeah.
But
after the first year, that's when I really started to get actually into the program. First year is literally just the basic classes.
Math,
like,
science, English, history, all that kind of stuff.
It's like the ones you have to take. After that, you're actually you're an athletic training class with kids you're going to be in the cohort with or be your classmates, people that you work with. So after that, I started making friends. It was a lot better. And by the end, those are friends for life. And so, but yeah, I had a great experience.
I don't think I could tell you one name of a person that was in my cohort in college.
Ooh.
How many people can you say that when you're like, I don't know, platoon? I don't know what the word was.
Yeah.
You could tell.
And my big thing was because I was already married. My family still lived here. So like every weekend I was driving home.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I went to school, I took as many credits a quarter as they would let me. So if it was 20 or 22, whatever I could get signed
Why am I
on.
not surprised by this?
Yeah. And then I also worked full time. And so, I got invited to do a lot of stuff. Like people were like, hey, let's go hang out or whatever. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to be, reading 25 books and writing 1,000 papers. That's my life now.
Yeah.
I remember sleeping just 4 or 5 hours a night every night all the way through. I did my bachelor's in 2.5 years, little over 2 years. And I remember when I finally got done, I slept 16 hours a day for 3 months. And my wife was like, I think there might be something wrong with you. And then one day I woke up on time and I was ready to go again. I was like, no, I just had some debt to pay.
Normal human.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a good actually spot here before we launch into your training career.
Okay.
All right. I want to jump into my favorite section because I get to ask it, and that's the Monroe's Random Ask Question.
Oh, yeah. I don't even get a heads up on what these are.
All right. And I feel like we've not talked about this, but I feel like in editing we've probably added some cool music.
That was
Monroe's
a cool music?
Random Ask Question. Listen, music's expensive, man.
Jingle.
It's got to be. These are really expensive. So this is and you get. I'm not going to give you parameters. All right. If there was one person in history that you could train, you get to pick what it's for. So if you were like rehab or wrestling, Gable's a big wrestling fan, or football, whatever. Someone in history.
Yep.
I would even go as far as saying real, not real.
Okay.
I can do an imaginary person?
Sure. Who would it be and why?
I'm going to train Achilles so we can get rid of that Achilles heel.
Oh, you're actually trained, and then he's just bulletproof.
Then he's just bulletproof.
Yeah. That's I was not expecting that.
Like, let's put a little Kevlar around this ankle.
Yeah. We just do rehab every day.
Do a little bit of rehab, and then it breaks, and he just dies right there. Oh.
The first exercise you do is too much. That puts him over the edge. He was avoiding that movement for a reason. Do they speak English?
Well, who cares? Just
you can speak their language.
I can speak their language. Cool.
Yeah.
Now I got to find a fun language
Jesus
to speak.
Christ.
Musashi?
Who's that?
Who is that?
Fans, of course we know Musashi.
We probably should just say fan. They're really fans.
No, there's multiple people. All of our parents are watching this.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
I haven't told my parents about
that's
it yet.
false. My wife will watch. My wife's family probably watch it.
Yeah.
He was a samurai, I guess, in feudal Japan, and he killed 62 dudes in sword duels, and had a lot of really great one-liners like, once you see the way, or once you know the way in one thing, you see it in everything, something like that. Once you know the way, you see it broadly. There's once you figure out how to be successful, then that's kind of a tool that you can use over and over again.
Cut one person's head off, cut everybody's head off.
Yeah, beat a dude to death with an oar. Why not?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And so I think it would be really cool.
What are you training him in?
Who cares? I just want to hang out with him.
He already knows.
Yeah, I'm just interested. I mean, I'll teach him how to use the weight room. Maybe he would have got 63 dudes if he was a little stronger.
That's the number you always shop for.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm going Jesus.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a softball right there. And I think his running back. You know what I mean?
We're not playing on water. We're playing on a field.
First off, he has the power of flight, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Just fly over everybody, score.
Wait, if he has the power of flight, why does he have to walk on water?
Why does he need to be trained?
Yeah,
again?
Why can't he just fly over the water?
I feel like your pick is worse than my pick.
No,
yours is the third worst.
No, the third worst.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, but so the
third best,
first worst.
Worst.
Yours is first worst, second worst,
better
third
than third
worst.
worst.
I'm best. No, Jesus, come on.
What do you have to train? You can already fly. He's already got everything.
Yeah. You know who makes the best coaches? Great athletes. Goodness, haven't you learned that already? Oh, this is amazing how some of these coaches are really awesome with great athletes.
So I don't think there's a lot of physical descriptions of Jesus, but the one that I recall described him as short, crooked, and homely.
I also don't think he had the power of flight.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I was an alcoholic, and he can make freaking wine out of water.
Mm.
And it's Jesus, so it's not alcoholism, because it's freaking Jesus.
Just blessed.
You get free bread.
Come on.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not eating bread right now, though, damn it.
Oh, yeah.
So basically now I don't eat bread, and I don't drink alcohol anymore. So maybe it's not Jesus.
So what are you guys doing when you hang out?
Abraham Lincoln, I changed it.
Okay.
He did wrestle.
Lincoln would be cool. Yeah. I'd love to train somebody who didn't know that training was the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There wasn't really
Changed
a lot
it.
of physical culture in Abraham Lincoln's day.
I'm a little nervous now that I changed my answer from Jesus.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure.
Sacrilegious.
Were you flirting with the line of being complimentary or insulting?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I just realized that he might not fly. Once you said walk on water, I was like, yeah, that one would come up if he just flew over the lake.
He'd be.
But
wicked 50 time in the Olympics.
Dude.
Dead sprint.
Javelin.
High jump.
He'd be a good javelin.
I'd probably be the best high jumper.
Steeplechase.
Yeah.
Steeplechase. He jumps on the water and doesn't ever get wet. Just keeps running.
Yeah.
No change in altitude for him to recover from.
Or just like an Olympic swimmer. Would he have to? Does anything say that the athlete's not allowed to run on top of the water?
I don't think so.
It's probably not.
Well, I don't think anybody can do that. So
exactly.
Never been a rule.
Yeah.
Even a slow person could outrun a swimmer swimming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is true.
People swim at like 3 or 4 miles an hour.
I've seen some
like 2 to 3.
I've seen some slow people before.
Slower than 2 miles an hour?
I haven't clocked it, but I'm like, you know what? Michael Phelps could beat that.
I think I had a couple timed this summer.
Yeah.
But
okay.
all right, so let's jump back in there.
I'm gonna cut all of that.
No, that was great.
Okay.
That's you can't cut the MRAC, dude. So bachelor's, you move on.
And so I get my bachelor's in athletic training after 4 years in just basic sports science, but I don't really count that as a degree because I hadn't finished athletic training yet.
Right.
And so after a year and a half, you get into the program, and then until 5 years, that's when you graduate. And so I got my bachelor's in 4, but I still hadn't taken any certification tests. Hadn't done training with a specific sport. And so I got my master's in athletic training. That's what I'm proud of. The bachelor's one is great, but
yeah, it's kind of like with me with dietetics. Like, sure, it does say dietetics on my, but really the meat of that got into it in the master's program. Like, I would never sit there and tell somebody like I'm a dietitian.
But like if I left school after I got my bachelor's, I couldn't be an athletic trainer.
Right.
Like I didn't take the certification, so okay, I'm gonna go do some teaching or something. But I made it such not a big deal that we had the ceremony middle of COVID, so we had to go to Idaho, 8 miles away in Moscow, instead of doing it in Pullman, so you can actually do it in masks. Everywhere else, it just was all through Zoom.
Yeah.
And so it's like I called my mom I called my dad on I think a Wednesday night. It's like, yeah, there's some families coming to watch this graduation thing for bachelors, but bachelors doesn't really mean anything. And he's like, what are you talking about? We gotta tell your mom right now. And since I told him so late, my dad couldn't come. But I was like, it's not a big deal. But my mom called out of work the next day. She brought my sister Quinn, but she was all upset. Probably still all upset with me. I almost didn't invite her to my graduation as a bachelor, but it's like
I invited my parents to the wrong one.
Nice.
It was like the 3 o'clock, and I was like, "Yeah, we're graduating at 3 o'clock." And then I got a phone call from one of the girls in the cohort. They're like, "We're walking in to the stadium right now. Where are you?" And I was like, I was still asleep. And I had to sprint. I had to call my parents like, you should stop coming. They still hadn't left freaking the west side.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Not me.
But after I finished at WSU, I got my master's, and then I went to Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, to get just an intern year. Caitlin was still in school, and my fiance at the time, or not at the time, still my fiance.
Wasn't your fiance at the time?
Wasn't my fiance at the time. Yeah, might have to edit that all out.
Nope.
Caitlin would be so confused.
We're gonna double.
My girlfriend at the time, now fiance, was still in school for track and field and environmental science in Cheney, Washington, which for those who don't know is like 15 minutes away from Spokane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go to Gonzaga, 15 minutes away, and just see Caitlin every weekend. So did an internship there, worked with cross country and rowing and stuff like that, and then ended up in back at Shelton next fall.
Did you go to any like basketball games or anything while you're there?
Nope.
Not really? You're like, nope, I did not. What's special about Gonzaga's basketball team? I didn't even know they had one.
Literally was go see Caitlin this weekend or hang out at home. So, yeah.
So you've obviously, like, you work with all the athletes at here, right?
Yes.
And then you said, what were the sports that you did when you were at Gonzaga?
Gonzaga, I work primarily with girls cross country and track, which is basically the same thing. They don't have a real track team; it's just runners. So no throws, no jumps or anything. And then I also work with the boys rowing.
Okay.
But I'd say girls track and cross country was my primary one. And so
was there like a really substantial difference in like attitude between your collegiate athletes and your high school athletes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collegiate athletes, they're all paying to go to college. A lot. In Gonzaga, they're paying. I didn't know this at the time, but they're paying like $70,000 a year.
Yeah. It's private school.
Yeah.
A nice private school.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
But I was like, I would never go to a school that costs that much money.
Right.
But yeah, they're all paying to be athletes to go do that versus high school athletes. Sometimes like, my parents are making me do this.
Right.
Or they don't say that, but.
Or they might be seeing you to get out of something.
Yeah, like, hey, my arm hurts again.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. This area of my arm is injured. Sometimes it bleeds over to the other side.
I tried really hard to point with one finger.
Yeah.
But huge difference between college and high school, and that's they kind of prepared me for that. Like, yeah, it's completely different. Everyone in college basically wants to be there, or they just leave.
Yeah.
Right. There's no reason to be there. You can just drop out of the sport instead of having to do that because they have a full-time job and then some.
Right.
So why would you do that and go to school and do all the extra stuff for being an athlete?
Yeah, I remember going on recruiting trips. They would tell me, they'd be like, school's going to be 40 to 60 hours a week, and your sport is going to be 35. And so, like, you just got to plan on that.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's going to be what does that end up on the high end? 95 hours a week?
Yeah,
on the
100 hours sometimes.
Yeah. And so, you got to be pretty in it to, commit to that level of thing.
When you're going to workouts at 5 a.m., 6 months into your off season, like,
right.
You better like what you're doing, otherwise it's not going to be fun.
Yeah,
especially
love it.
If you're hurt. Yeah, love it. And so,
yeah. How does that manifest a lot in the outcomes? Like, do you feel like your college athletes took the recovery stuff a lot more seriously?
Oh, yeah.
And it paid off?
Yeah, the really high level ones, they would be in there every single day. Even if it was something small, just to try and stay ahead of the game.
Right.
That's the biggest thing with high school. I'm trying to convince them we got to do rehab even when we feel good.
Yeah.
It's preventative instead of just recovery.
Yeah.
Because that's what kind of separates athletic trainers from PT. When you go to PT, when you're hurt, and trying to recover. My job is also that, but it's more of, okay, how do we stop you from getting hurt?
Mm-hmm.
And so, big with high school kids, how many times are they going to come in if they're not hurt?
Right.
Maybe one time the last year and a half.
Right.
Versus that was every single day at Pullman or at Gonzaga and Spokane. So.
Right.
Yeah, really that prehab piece, I feel like you get a lot more out of educating the coaches.
Yeah.
So that they just incorporate it into their sport.
Yeah.
Or maybe even educating parents to make sure that they're doing it at home or.
Yeah. And then even like if you do prehab with high school kids, great. But how many of them are actually going to focus on what they're doing versus with the swimmers at WSU that I worked with, every single day they went meticulously through their shoulder rehab every single day. No one was like, okay, we got to double check this, got to remind you.
Right.
Versus if you tell your high school kids, some of them will probably do it pretty good. Other ones will be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's if it's done at home, not happening.
Yeah.
Even when it's done in front of you, it's maybe you're getting maybe 50%, and that number is probably way high.
Yeah. And I mean, there's one at me. So, like, am I going to be able to check every single kid every single time doing the rehab? Probably not. But just trying to get something out of them is usually my goal.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Do you, so I was a thrower, right? And then as the throwers, like, there's a huge amount of, like, right leg drive, assuming that you throw right-handed, right? And then after I got hurt, I was trying to find things I could still do in the weight room. And one of the things I could do was leg press. So I couldn't squat for a while, but I could leg press. And so I got in the leg press, and I realized that I could leg press a solid 100 pounds more with my right leg than with my left leg. So, like, when somebody comes in and they're like, I just do shot put, or they come in and they're like, I just swim, does that, like, change your menu of, like, things that you want them to be doing?
Yeah. And so, like, if there's a swimmer, we're really, depending on even what stroke, like if they're a freestyle, we're doing this motion over and over and over again. So the amount of shoulder impingement we're dealing with versus a breaststroker, they're going to work on their pecs, get everything strong in their lats.
Right.
And so it's going to be different for each kid, I guess. It's more of a case by case.
Yeah.
In college, like, there's a group of sprinters, we're all kind of working on the same thing. Whereas high school, you just kind of do whatever. Like, you might have a kid do 4 different events in track.
So, like, at a. Right. Yeah.
In college, you're specialized because that's what you're good at, and that's what's going to.
And, like, how big, when you were at Gonzaga, how big was the team of, like, trainers?
There was it 6 full-times, and me and the other guy were the, I think, first 2 interns. Like, they had just gotten us, and they were like, we need 4 more.
Yeah, they might even have even more. Yeah. Because, like, you have to know every sport.
Yeah.
You know, like, every type of thing, whereas it would be super helpful if you had somebody that's like, I work with sprinters. Yeah,
because in that WSU, each trainer basically, most of them only work with one sport.
Right.
Some work 2. Everyone in Gonzaga worked 2, and some of the higher-ups even work 3.
Oh, okay.
And so they're just not – and that's even at smaller colleges, I'm sure it's back to just like me where you work with every sport. At some D3 school or D2, and so –
not that you can't. It's just you're with
stretching.
Any sport, you know, any time you can get more – specific, you're gonna be able to help those things a little, or just know right off the bat, like, I've seen that before.
So what can kids do? So, like, if I'm not traumatically injured, I don't need surgery, but I'm a high school athlete, and I'm talking to my athletic trainer, like, what's the attitude that an athlete should come to it with, and how closely should they follow their prescribed, instructions?
The biggest thing I tried, let's say I gave you some rehab, and after a couple of days, I'm going to ask, okay, what do we need to change? What do we need to adjust? And sometimes they're paying attention. Okay, I don't feel like I do anything with this, and then I'll add to that. Versus some of them, okay, well, they're just going through the motions. But the original thing, like, I think every high school athlete could work on getting their hips stronger.
Okay, yeah.
Because, I mean, the hips connect your lower legs, which every athlete is going to use. They connect to your hips and your core, which everyone uses, and your back. And so if each athlete would just work on their hips a little bit better, especially after COVID, I mean, all high school athletes that are right now were sedentary for a year and a half. And so the amount of kids I have that have really bad knee problems, okay, yeah, your knees hurt, but it's actually your hips we're having problems with. Your hips are so far rotated inwards that you're having a hard time move. And so I think working hips on every single athlete would be my first recommendation.
And that's from sitting.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if I just sat at a desk for a year and a half and did this, couldn't go outside because I wasn't allowed to. My parents were trying to do what was best for everyone. Then, yeah, my hips and my knees, right? Especially when you're supposed to be in puberty and your muscles trying to grow. Your muscles didn't grow, and your body did, which means your body is ahead of where your muscles are supposed to be. Your bones and ligaments and everything is ahead of where your muscles should be. And so just trying to get your muscles to catch up, we're still doing with that. And so I still have kids every day like, yeah, your knees are way out of whack, and we got a lot to work on. So
yeah. How often do you notice that, like, that's a pretty significant event, to spend a year basically just hanging out on the couch or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And people don't move right. Like, how long does it usually take you to resolve that? Like, where you get them like some new movement patterns and like try to teach them how to run or jump or whatever the right way?
It's still going on. Like, it's because we're trying to work on daily with these kids, and I mean, they're also going to get a lot more likely to get hurt because their knees and hips don't move right. So if we're hurt, we're kind of limited how much we can do. So just kind of a spiral compounding effect where it gets worse and worse. And so that's where I want to go back to that prehab. We got to do this for everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Even when we feel good.
Well, especially like I feel like now, if a kid that may have liked being athletic 10 years ago, they come back, they ache, like, oh, this is hard, but now my knees also really hurt, my hips hurt, my back hurts. So now, like, how many of those kids just stopped coming? They don't go to the weight room. They don't play any sports. Whereas 10 years ago, without COVID, they would have probably been like, oh, I'm perfectly fine. I could be an athlete, which is super big for health after, health, learning how to be athletic during high school, whether it's a sport or not.
Yeah.
And
I'm curious how that would have, I haven't seen any studies on it, but I'm curious how that would affect like the lower income population, like Shelton compared to the fancier neighborhoods. Like Shelton, you just stay inside. Maybe they can go on fancier walks in at a huge park or something in a bigger area.
Well, and our population is pretty diverse as far as that goes, because like, my kids, we've got a pretty decent sized chunk of property here, so my kids could go run around and play outside, and that wasn't a hurdle. But like, if you grew up in town, like I had several students tell me the same story of like, I just was in my bedroom for 9 months.
Yeah, you can't do
like
anything.
a neighborhood that like where we live now,
right?
Like that would have been a nightmare. You know what I mean? Like there's nowhere, especially the population there. Like you're not going to want to mix, so people won't want you out on the streets.
Yeah,
those kind of things.
Versus my sister and I, if COVID happened when we were still at home, we could have been outside any day that we wanted.
Right.
And my parents would have been like,
you guys probably wouldn't even have known about it for a week.
Yeah, we would have. We could have been outside the entire time. But for all the kids that are like, we're door to door with neighbors, you got to stay inside. We can't get anybody else sick.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I know I had like hip dislocation or subluxation when I was
both
a kid.
Suck. So.
Yeah, both suck. I jumped into a quarry. Not a good idea. Don't do that. But I found out.
Was there water?
No. It was sand in the bottom, and I was like, oh, it'll be soft. But I was like 10 and dumb. I didn't realize that when you leave sand out in the rain for like 10 years, it basically turns into stone again. Like I remember when I finally got back up again, that you couldn't even like tell where I hit the pile at. Like it just.
How big was this jump?
25 feet.
Oh,
I wish we could see it.
Yeah.
Because I just have a feeling it was just like a stone quarry.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at that sand. You just jumped on a rock and you're like, this is hard sand.
I'm so glad I'm scared of heights. I never would have considered jumping.
Yeah. I'd had a lot of fun jumping off of stuff in the recent 6 months, and hadn't been hit by it yet, but that was a bad choice. That was not a good one. But anyway, when I was like 24, my wife was going to physical therapy for like a knee thing, and when she came home, I was like, oh, show me all the stuff that you learned how to do. And so she was showing me some of the exercises, and most of them weren't really much, but then she showed me clamshells. And to do 2 reps was everything that I could give, and I think that my hip burnt for like an hour and a half afterwards. You know what I mean?
And this is when you were 24, so 14 years.
14 years. Yeah. I hadn't ever used that whole piriformis group to do anything for 14 years, right? And so then it's like, well, it's no wonder that like I run weird and I jump weird and nothing that I do looks right.
Yeah.
And then it's been like another 14 years of trying to figure out how to actually use my right hip the right way, And so, I was hoping that you'd had a phenomenal amount of success and I could be like, hey, maybe we can.
Yeah, it's literally just reverse clamshells, over and over again.
Yeah.
The reverse clamshells, I still cramp every single time I do them.
Oh, yeah?
And so.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about just athletes from COVID, but if you like, that information is good for every freaking person.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We all sit. We sit for work. We sit at home. Then we go to bed. Like, even me, like, I don't sit at work almost ever. Like every once in a while I'll sit back down, but I still feel like my hips are
Yeah.
incredibly tight. We did it maybe a year ago, went through some just like, like the 90s and stuff. And when I was doing it, just I was only about a month or two ago trying to rehab my knee. It's just like the level of tightness, just decades of tight, I got a little bit looser and my knee just fell apart.
Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I got a little lucky where I still got to go because athletes were still practicing. We just had masks. So I got to go to work every day. I was still in college and just trying to go to be a student trainer. And so I still went to work every single day. Pullman was a ghost town. There's literally just athletes and the athletic training students. So I just walked to work. There'd be no one else walking on any of the sidewalks. But I got to go to work every day. So luckily I didn't get to sit for 9 months. But my roommate just sat. We couldn't do anything. He got to go on walks, but that was about it. And so...
Yeah, pretty rough.
Yeah.
Pretty rough. I know that we get a lot of like parents who are concerned about their kids doing sports because they're afraid of them getting hurt. And I'm kind of a crazy person, so I can't ever talk to them. I'm not allowed to, because I'm always like, getting hurt's awesome. Like, that's a great learning tool. It's a big part of life. And, and I've had some really, really major injuries. And I'm 40 years old and nothing bothers me when I'm moving around. Like, I feel fine, right?
A dislocated hip at 10 is so crazy. Like,
so crazy.
That is.
I'll see if I have the X-ray somewhere I can show you. I've got no cartilage on that hip anymore.
That is.
The right hip is like the gap between my femur and my hip is like a nice big cartilage pad on my left side. But on my right side, it's like they're just right on top of each other.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm nice and strong, it doesn't hurt at all. If I'm not strong, it's painful.
Muscles stabilize it.
Yeah.
When I was in school, it was like, besides like the near-death experience, they're like, if you ever get a dislocated hip, good luck working with that. Like, that was the one they were like, the worst possible thing you could have.
Oh, interesting.
And so,
I mean, it has led to like a lot of issues because I've had like knee issues and ankle issues and back issues and stuff, and they're all predictable.
Yeah.
Now that I know, like 40 years later, like I didn't have a trainer. I walked home from that. I mean, it was 2 miles away from my house, and I walked home.
So it must have popped back in.
Yeah, it went back in on its own.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't really mistake a dislocation, though. Like, I've dislocated my shoulders, my elbow, you know what I mean? Every time you have that feeling where it, like, draws out of the hip and has that horrible suction-y feel. It's the worst thing ever.
It's gonna make me throw up.
But I walked home, and my parents were like, well, you're walking, you're probably fine. And I remember, like, the next day to try to get off of the bus was like an epic adventure. Like, somehow I got on the bus okay, but then I sat on the bus and the bus ride was like 45 minutes because I lived out in the middle of nowhere. And like trying to get off the bus again, I was like, I think I'm gonna die here. I think this is where I'm gonna die.
Just
roll off.
Yeah.
Oh my.
But most of the injuries that I've had have actually been really informative. I've had a lot of things that have been downstream from that hip issue, but then you find out like, oh, I can't rotate my hip at all. Like, I need to work on that and makes my life better, And it's also been good, like, going through the rest of my life. Most of my injuries didn't happen in sport. They just happened in weird accidents or falls or whatever, right?
Jumping into a quarry.
And so, having the experience of like, having a muscle strain or a tendon strain or something was actually a great experience to go through, because then the whole rest of my life, anytime I had something bad happen, it was like, okay, well, I know what to do. Like this, I've done this before. I'll be all right. Yeah. And I look around a lot and see people who are, my same age who can't move anymore. And I'm like, man, you gotta get going. Like, it's not, you can't hide from it, So like, what's your, like, I'm a crazy person. So like, when I read the what's McGill's book, The Gift of Injury. So when I saw that title, The Gift of Injury, I was like, this guy gets it. But like, where do you land on the spectrum of like, we should try to rubber coat our entire lives to like, go ahead and pull that off the bone. We'll fix it.
What's the other end of that spectrum? Forced injury? Throwing kids into the quarry?
Yeah. Let's throw those kids in the quarry.
So somewhere on that spectrum.
I think that's the title of this episode, Throwing Kids in the Quarry.
I need a shirt.
I think the first time I came up with that, not the direct argument, but like, do we bubble wrap everybody or not? It was like, my sister broke her leg when she was a second grader in Mountain View she was on the monkey bars before school, and her friends were competing to see who could jump the farthest onto the farthest monkey bar.
Right.
She fell, and she fell at a figure 4.
Oof.
And so her femur just snapped when she fell on the ground.
Yeah.
And she's a second grader. And then They take her to the ambulance. I'm there. I get the duties call me over. Like we get my mom who works at the school. We go over there.
Did they ask you to like
go get your mom?
What is this?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
They knew then that you had a promising career.
Her leg looks broken. So and so, but they went to the doctor. Got it all fixed. But I remember like after the surgery and everything, they said, yeah, your left leg, or was the left leg that she broke? Your left leg's gonna be stronger now than your right one. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm a fourth grader. Like my sister just broke her leg.
Right.
She was in a wheelchair for forever. How can her leg be stronger? And I was like, no. After all that, we will build everything. Your leg will be stronger and work back. So I'm not saying you should break your leg so you get stronger, but sometimes when those injuries come, we have a chance to improve and limit how much they happen in the future.
Yeah.
And so if you never have it in the first place, if you never stretch one of your shoulder tendons and we never do rehab,
right,
or like you hurt your hip and you don't realize it's hurt at all,
right,
and so then just you can work back more. And so I'm kind of biased because it's kind of my job, but I'm okay with no bubble wrap and we'll just work back with it.
Yeah.
So what I heard is by the time I'm 50, because of all my knee pain now,
I'm going to be good.
dunking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go back and do some like masters track meets or something.
Maybe that should be your goal, is to dunk at 50. You know.
Well, I did the staff for student basketball game yesterday. I barely walked today.
How are you doing today?
My knees are bending.
I also did the staff versus student basketball game.
As the best fan ever.
Yeah, cheerleader.
So you know how you were clicking your pin? Yeah. I've just been playing with this fluid in my knee the whole time, so it doesn't make any noise.
As soon as you guys both look that way, I'm grabbing one of the pens.
Yeah, you'll be right back.
My hands need something.
Here, hang on. I'll take the batteries out of this remote. We'll give you
a fidget spinner.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we need in the office. Is more
fidgets for our guests.
Fidget things.
Who would have thought?
There you go. Play with that.
Mess with this.
You can even press the buttons.
See, you can't even see. Well, never mind.
Well, people are watching the video. They're going to know where it is.
But now, see. So discreet.
Illusions.
We'll just edit your hands out.
Yeah.
AI cut your hands
I'll
out.
put a blur over it so people are like, what is going on over there?
Yeah, that'll look great. One thing, though, we did kind of skip over was you told us everybody should be doing hip things, strengthen our hips. Like, what does that look like? Because, like, that might trigger different ideas for a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right, somebody might have just been like, we're doing deadlift, baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are some really easy things that'd probably be best? Like, let's start with maybe some things that take nothing. If there's anything that takes nothing, then maybe some bands, and then not to put you on the spot, but
like the
just give us like the top 10 best things ever.
Yeah, top 10 exactly.
I need
in
to
order.
Consult my studies and make sure I get everything right.
Yeah.
I follow a lot of like my For You page on like Instagram, all that stuff is a lot of it is just a bunch of rehab and stuff like that.
For cocaine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Addiction rehab.
So one of them, shout out to the prehab guys. I follow that page, and they have a bunch. They do everything, but they have some really good stuff on the hips. It's just the idea of imagine you're sitting with both legs, just in flexion, bend to the knee, and then you're just rotating from side to side. So you're alternating internal and external rotation with both hips, trying to get both quads parallel to the ground. And so just rotating from side to side. And then I also really like the idea of glute bridges, just kind of making sure your butt is activating.
Feet on the ground, shoulders on the ground.
Yep. And so just lifting your hips, and then you can always adjust that into single leg lifts with your leg extended. And so just working on balance as well as going through the motion. And so as long as you're doing some of those exercises and you're not rushing them, you're really focused on getting full range of motion, not staggering at all. That's what I would go through. And then I would start with the bands after that. With the football team, when I was there, we got there at 5 a.m, and before they even do any of their practices, all of them would be on all fours, their strength and conditioning coach, and they'd be saying one, and then each kid would be doing a certain hip exercise with bands. So abduction, adduction, bird dogs with a reaching back, just everything to work on their core, and just basically from your knees to your nipples, trying to work on everything like that. And so,
new band name.
Knees to nipples.
Knees to nipples
yes.
is a good. That might be the freaking throw kids in the quarry with a guest starring of Knees to nipples.
And so they did that every single morning, regardless if you were hurt or not. Just trying that part of that prehab. And so I really liked what the strength conditioning coaches there. Todd Barbour was the head of that, and so he had a bunch of good guys who would come and work on it.
And it's not something that you need to stop.
Yeah,
right. You just keep. It's not. You don't need to overload it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing that.
Yeah, they did it for about 5 to 10 minutes every day before they start practice.
You don't ever graduate.
Yeah.
From like and a lot of kids feel that way. I feel like we're doing something banded.
Yeah.
So can I do 2 bands? No, that's not the point.
Yeah.
Of this.
Just get the range of motion.
Yeah. Let's just.
And then obviously clamshells, reverse clamshells. I think they're great. I do them all the time. And then just stretching your quads. Like the amount of kids that my quads are hurting. Like, yeah, your hips might work, but if we can get your quads moving a little bit and get your core strong in your back or the hip flexor stretch, all that stuff is great. And so I would get kids doing that every day.
Yeah, we had this conversation a couple months ago about magic exercises.
Yeah.
And there's like a kind of an undercurrent in physical therapy or athletic training of like, if you just add this exercise, you'll be bulletproof, right?
Yeah.
And that's not really like supported so much by like literature or whatever, but it might also be that that's the only time that you're like stretching that joint or like moving that joint through that range of motion, right? And so like maybe there's not really a thing as magic exercises, but maybe there is a thing that's magic for you because you literally haven't stretched your quad in 6 years.
Yeah.
Right? And it's causing you problems, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the guy that says like, you want a bigger bench, do incline. I added 3 sets of 8 of incline. My bench went up 25 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
you just added volume of press.
More volume at longer muscle lengths, right? Yeah.
Like you could have done a lot of different things there. You're just lifting more.
Yeah. Okay. You were a wrestler?
I was, yes.
Yeah.
I still go in the morning and wrestle from time to time.
Do you?
Yeah. I go beat up the high schoolers.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I see you there every morning.
I've been skipping this week with the bad snow,
Well,
so I've been sleeping.
They haven't even been doing it.
They did it. I think, one
that's
day.
a classic Lacy right there. Like, oh, I have skipped this week. Oh, you mean the week that they weren't allowed to go in? Like, no one has been in all week because of the snow.
The weather's too bad.
Yeah,
We're going to put this out when it's 100.
I haven't gone in all week.
Crappy human you are.
I slept until 7:20 this morning. I about freaked out. So,
Yeah.
Wait, you don't go to work till 1:30.
I can't sleep in.
Oh my God, I would wake up at 1:20.
So there's a few years between us. And so when I was in school, weight cuts could be a pretty epic adventure, including, all kinds of things I'm not going to mention because you shouldn't do them in your sport anymore, and they're dangerous and it's a bad idea. So do you talk to kids at all about weight cuts? Is that like part of the scope of your work or?
So my dad's a wrestling coach at high school. I guess we should start with that.
Yeah.
And most of the time, unless you're this really, really high level wrestler that's potentially like going to state or getting a really high level it doesn't really matter what you weigh. Like even when I was wrestling, I would just drop weight. I only really had to stay after and cut 1 or 2 times, which is very rare.
Right.
I just naturally got lucky and was in the middle of the weight. But like all the JV wrestlers, that is like, you shouldn't have to cut ever.
Right.
And so we're just trying to get away from that. Now the high level wrestlers, we're really smart about it, where it's never a last minute thing.
Right.
He tries to get like 1 or 2 weeks in advance. Hey, we're gonna try getting you down at some point this week. Let's just start running a little bit more. And it's not 6 miles a day.
Right.
It's like 30 minutes after school, 30 minutes in PE, something like that. Or just adjusting what they're eating. It's not eating nothing. It's just maybe don't eat something in a wrapper.
Right.
Really trying to be smart about the cut.
Yeah, and so I got lucky. The only time I had to cut is because I had 2 things of lasagna instead of 1 right before we went down to wrestle in North Beach. But part of that, I never had to cut. And when I was down there, the entire bus ride down, so it was on Ocean Shores basically. So for 2 hours, I just sat there with 3 sweatshirts on. Everyone else in the van, 4 for them, but we had to heat on max blast because I was the only one over, so I was over by a pound. And so I just sat there spitting in a Gatorade bottle the entire time with 3 sweatshirts on. I already hate the heat, so I was dying in the van. And so, but that was the only time. And after that, I was like, okay, never do that again.
Yeah.
Only eat 1 plate of lasagna instead of 2.
Yeah. So in powerlifting, what happens is a lot of times if a kid can't compete at a certain weight class, their first thing is, I'll just go down.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go down there. And I feel like the weight classes it's larger jumps. I feel like there's a lot more of those like middle to low weight classes in wrestling than there are necessarily powerlifting. Do you get that? There's only 10.
Only 10, and so yeah, with
they follow a lot of the same guidelines, but I feel like once you get under like 150 ish somewhere, I feel like I've seen a couple more in wrestling than there are in weight.
What's the question?
Well, you interrupted me right in the goddamn middle of it to talk about the weight classes. I was
And
asking
after that, my mind instantly, I had no idea what you were saying. So.
Do you see, like, do kids try to, for lack of a better term, run in wrestling? Like, do they try to, like, oh, I'm not doing good here. I'll just drop down weight. I'll go down to the 130 or whatever the hell it is.
They can, but I mean, that is purely their thought. Like, we're never going to try and teach, you can't compete at this weight class. You need to go down. It'll naturally come down for them. And if they're a high-level wrestler and they're weighing 173, hey, maybe you should consider going down to 170. But if they're 179, like, we're not having that conversation. But nothing drastic, just trying to be really smart about it. Because if you lose a ton of weight, your body's going to be so pissed off at you the entire time that you might as well just wrestle that weight. Because you're going to wrestle so bad at that lower weight.
Yeah.
And so your body's going to be in freak-out mode.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't realize is that when you start really dramatically restricting your calories and or your water, your ability to produce force goes down fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, your strength and speed really decline quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you might think, like, oh, I'm great. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm strong and I'm fast. I'm just going to cut 12 pounds and make it to this new class. And then when you get down there, you're like, why am I being ragdolled?
Yeah. And, like, your hormones will be all messed up. You'll just be – I feel like my dad figured this out in, like, 2010, 2011. But he would notice when the wrestlers would cut a lot of weight, they would just be pissed off all the time because they wouldn't eat anything.
Yeah.
So he just started giving out fruit snacks in the middle of class or middle of practice. And so he still does that because just a little bit of sugar to boost that blood sugar. Because without it, they just –
so hangry.
I ate 800 calories today.
Yeah.
As a high school athlete trying to grow and trying to get better at your sport, like, it's never going to work eating 800. So.
Yeah, and then going to be an explosive athlete.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've often told kids, like, if you're trying to make, body composition improvements, right? Because maybe you are on the bubble. Maybe you're a few pounds away, right? And so you could drop a couple pounds of body fat, but usually it's, a pound or two a week is kind of the guideline that, we're giving them. And that's pretty aggressive at 2 pounds a week. Like, if you think you're doing more than that, you're probably not going to have a good time.
Yeah. Like, I do the weight assessments for the high school. And it is that, like, I think it's 2% or something of the max body weight a week.
Yeah.
So if you're 200, I think it's even less than that. It's probably more close to 1%. But it's like, you're a 200-pound athlete, you're losing 1.6 pounds or something like that a week.
Yeah.
Because anything else than that is just too drastic.
Yeah, percentages makes a lot of sense because some of the larger athletes are going to drop quite a bit right away. But still.
Yeah, despite my appearance on the camera right now, I could probably lose 5 pounds in a week and nobody would notice, Yeah. Yeah, but if you were 100-pound, like my wife, if my wife tried to lose 5 pounds, she's a tiny little thing. There wouldn't, there's nowhere for it to go. You know?
Well, and then, like, I feel like you see things like, so I would guess that a lot of wrestlers probably are fans of combat sports.
Yeah.
So then you see things like the UFC where they go through in their camp drastic weight cuts, but they also don't have day of weigh-ins. So they're weighing in, greater than 24 hours prior to actually getting into the octagon. So things like rehydration can actually happen. Whereas, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of kids are like, oh, after weigh-ins, I drink a Gatorade. It's like, that's awesome. You're on the way to becoming rehydrated, but it doesn't happen that fast.
You got a match in half an hour. That's not going to be enough.
Like, so, and almost none of them, anytime I talk to them, they never go like, oh, I ate the smartest things. Like we talked about on the last episode. Like, I had Richie Lingle over for Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and he was like, oh, I can't eat anything. I can't eat any of the dinner. So he had six cookies
because they're light.
Yeah, couldn't eat any of the dinner, but he had 6 cookies. And I was like, dude, you should have just ate the damn dinner. Like, it would have been
some white meat turkey.
Yeah,
how is that gonna hurt? Some white meat turkey.
It's like that when I wrote that questionnaire, and the kid was like, things you wish you could eat, and he was like, chicken.
Like, you can eat as much chicken as you want.
They were anonymous, but I was like, oh my god, just eat the chicken. What is who hurt you, kid? You're allowed to have your chicken.
Just eat a plate and then go run.
Yeah, don't eat 4 plates.
Yeah, just you got to eat like a normal person, not a teenage boy at times. But
is there a relationship between, like, hydration and injury rate?
There's probably so many studies about this that are way smarter than me. But
I was just thinking about it, like you mentioned, spitting in the cup and wearing sweaters the whole way over. And then you got to wrestle and somebody's pulling on your arms and pulling on your neck. And
I mean, dehydrated, that's going to mess with all your bodily composition. So instead of your body focusing on okay, we're in fight or flight mode in wrestling match. We're focusing on how do I rehydrate myself.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't give max effort, but
yeah.
I'm sure the studies will have way more info about that.
We should do a video on that.
For sure. And like if you think about it, and maybe it's not even at a level where you'd be able to like super test it, but if you're thinking about like dehydrated cells and like how catalysts are gonna act, and you know what I mean, like that's got to affect.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'd be shocked if the answer was no.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the, you know, staples of powerlifting is like after weigh-ins, you know, get as much salt and water and, you know, carbohydrates. Like, you know, that's kind of like I don't want to say an old wives' tale, but like conventional wisdom about like you're trying to avoid getting hurt. You want to be hydrated, you know?
Yeah.
And I've never looked for research on that. I know I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but I've never actually made the effort to read.
Dude, what if it's the opposite?
You get
like
dehydrated.
Dehydrated cells are just like hacky sacks. So you just be bent all over the place, and it's like, dude, we're good, baby. You can bend us all over the place. Maybe that's the new thing. Red Gauge Nutrition. We sell dehydration products.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. All the people who are writing us because of their kidney failure.
Booze.
Yeah. My kidney quit working, and my doctor says my blood pressure is a problem.
Booze and cigarettes is what we sell here.
Yeah.
Red Gauge Nutrition.
But on those like long tournament days, it would be like, okay, each of you has to eat or drink something after every match, every single time, and so that's always been the rule. And so just trying to get that little bit of blood sugar back, so it'd be like a PB&J, and like half a water or something.
Yeah,
right.
And so something simple like that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that was always one of the selling points for the powerlifting teams. Was like you get to eat the whole day. Like, you know, just bring your snacks and
we asked last year, Sancelli, what's your favorite part about powerlifting? And he said, the snacks.
The snacks.
Because he used to always bring like the chocolate cake after football and everything. Was that powerlifting too?
Yeah, he was always crazy with the snacks. It's a joy being a heavyweight, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't got to watch out for your weight. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. It's hard. I feel like a lot of people know what, especially kids, like it's probably so much from high school to college training. Like obviously I've never trained college athletes,
right?
Only high school athletes, but I've trained youth athletes, and the jump from youth to high school is gigantic. You know what I mean? Tenfold.
Yeah.
So like, I wonder, you know, like at what level is there a place where you get to go like the Olympics, like where everybody just listens?
Yeah. They listen.
I think it's impossible.
They do everything you're asked to do.
Because I know it's not the pros. Because the few people that I've been able to talk to about that, there's people there that are like,
yeah,
you know,
not
interested.
Yeah, the Olympics has that because it's such a narrow window and it takes so long to get there. You know,
and there's no like people get to the pro. People become pros because they're freaky athletes and they make a lot of money.
Yeah. Olympics, you're training for something 4 years in the future.
Yeah, and it's for you, like you said. There's not the same financial.
I guess
incentives.
there are probably some people that get sponsorships, but I bet you it's not that many.
Yeah.
I don't see a bunch of commercials with the hurdlers.
Right.
You know, like I'm gonna name one. You probably
we just lost our entire hurdling.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying
good luck to the hurdlers right here.
I'm not saying that they're bad. I've just never seen.
That's what I heard.
I've just never seen one.
It didn't make them sound like they were good.
Yeah.
I've just never actually seen a hurdler.
You're saying hurdlers don't exist?
Yeah.
Have you met one?
This is the conspiracy
I've never met
theory.
one before.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's the name of that girl who just smashed the back-to-back world record?
You're just making this up now.
No, it was maybe the last trials, but she broke the world record, then she broke it again, but the wind was a little high, for it to count. But yeah, pretty dominating performances.
The wind was too high, so they don't count it?
Yeah, because if you have a tailwind.
Track takes into it. But doesn't that mean it was a headwind that part?
No, the headwind would inhibit your speed.
I know, but what I'm saying is what length are we talking?
The 110, I think.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, what is it, like 330?
Yeah,
or whatever? Because I was like,
I wonder if the wind matters for that one.
The back stretch is doing one thing, the other. That's why I was saying, like, why does the wind matter?
And if it's so short of a race, that's less and less that headwind would matter.
But when you're talking records,
do they have the weight, the wind measurement from all the other records? They just
even all the way down to high school, they care about that. Like when I was talking to John Johnson, he was like, "Oh yeah, wind's too high here." I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Yep, it's 2.2 miles an hour. This ain't gonna count."
Yep.
I hope that really picked up your audio when you did that. So,
I mean, if you could hear it in your headphones, it's on there.
I do that once an episode.
It's twice now. Whether we wanted it or not, we got it. 2 of them. Yeah.
It's one of Cofield's favorite things. All right, so here's a big thing, and you don't have to be this. You're not an interviewer or anything. Like, what is the best part of your job? You don't got to sell it. Your best part of your job could be that it's super easy. I don't know, but
well, a perk of my job,
working with the kids,
is that I don't got to be to work till 1:30 every day.
Yeah,
oh.
Now there's a trade-off. A couple nights ago, I was working till 9.
Yeah.
But most days, like today was a 4-hour day, started at 1:30, ended at 5:30. That's a nice part. It's a little bit different schedule, but I get to just hang out at home and be a nerd all day. But my favorite part of my job is working with kids that want to get better and seeing them actually get better.
Yeah.
And so kids that are just there like, okay, yeah, I'll help you out. But the kids are like, yeah, I'm going to come to rehab every day. We're going to work on it. And then they get back to doing whatever they like. Because, like, I missed a lot of time and games when I was in high school because I was hurt. And so I can kind of empathize with them and, like, maybe sympathize. I don't know which one it is. But, like,
no,
hey.
no one knows.
No one knows. I can empathize / sympathize.
Whom is this for?
But I can empathize with them on getting back to what you like to do.
Yeah.
And the kids that really like to, attack their rehab, usually are the ones that really love the sports they do.
Yeah.
The kids are like, that's usually how they feel about sports.
It's a good way to not get back in.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the things that we talked about in a previous episode that I think is something I want to explore a lot is, like, as an athlete, really embracing the process of getting better, like whether it's from injury or just in your sport in general, right? I'm a great lover of the weight room, and I think every athlete should be in the weight room.
Yeah.
And largely just because it's a process piece, right? Like, if you're the stronger version of yourself, you're going to be more successful in your competition, right? And it's also a skill that you can do for the rest of your life, right? You can train forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that there's a way to coach kids through, like, embracing the process? Because doing the training, is part of the process. Doing the weight room is part of the process. Like, I know a lot of kids, kind of balk at the weight room because they fell in love with tennis. They didn't fall in love with weight room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they fall in love with wrestling. They didn't fall in love with PT. So, like, is there, like, advice that you give kids or that you would give kids who are listening that's like, like, do the process because it works?
Yeah.
I
feel like it comes back to the extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. If a coach is telling a kid, hey, we got to get in the weight room, maybe that goes over the kid's head.
Right.
But if we can convince the kids that the weight room can be a good thing, that's when, a kid thinks, hey, I came up with it. Maybe they'll be more into it. And so you just kind of open the door, like, hey, let's do a workout, or, hey, or I'll do rehab in the weight room some days. Just kind of a kid that's never worked in the weight room before. Say, hey, let's do a weight room on the squat bar or the other stuff like that. Just kind of open up that door. Like, this can be a good spot where we can get back to doing what you like.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they really like swimming or whatever, and maybe they don't work out a lot. But if they really like swimming, will we get you back to swimming faster? Maybe the weight room will. And
yeah.
So just kind of using that. It's like maybe a bargaining chip or a bribe. I don't know. But
yeah.
Just this will help you get back to your sports. And
right.
So, because, I mean, the rehab process, it is a grind. And what is the weight room? Also a grind.
Yeah.
And so,
and it's monotonous. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and you got to try to find ways to keep it interesting. And, every few months we're talking about the dumb thing that I'm training for that, I just have to have something to do or I won't enjoy being in the weight room, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's important that that it's tied to something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a lot of similarities between that and rehab. Like, if you go to the weight room once a week and then that's it, are you going to see any results? Probably not. If you go to rehab once a week and you see any results? Probably not. And so you kind of tie them hand in hand, and that's generally where both will improve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for most people, if you're gonna like the question of how do you make someone fall in love with training, like it's kind of like what you talked about, Max, is like it's just got to be the environment.
Yeah,
you got to have an environment that kids like. It might not even, in all honesty, it might not even be the environment that would be most like specific to getting better. Right, because that might not actually be the environment that's super awesome to be in.
Yeah, I mean,
like for me, I feel like, and you might be a little bit different, but I bet you they were similar. Like, if I went to a gym that had a coach, like, I want like a huge person that's scary that yells at me.
Right.
Like, if I sit down, like he springs out from a garbage can. You know what I mean?
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's how I would respond. Like a super violent, like intense,
massive human being,
just environment. You know what I mean? Where you're just pressing and freaking going hard.
Yeah.
Whereas
you could give a bull a whistle, and he would just look at you intimidatingly, and he'd be like,
where I feel like that would not work with the majority of humans. So like,
most people probably just cry.
Yeah, you want it for most people, especially coming in. Like it's got to be an inviting.
Yeah.
That's what like a lot of people are always telling my wife and stuff like, your husband's scary. It's like, I don't know why. Like I know why, because my face looks.
Look how huge you look in this. You're twice my size.
Yeah, well, it's because I'm just gigantic, and I don't know. Everything's kind of like pointy, and I have these like Neanderthal eyeballs.
You do have that brow.
My nose kind of is. You know what I mean? Like I have a kind of a frightening face, and I'm grouchy a lot.
Like a ghoul.
But, yeah, like some sort of goblin. I would say more goblinish.
A hobgoblin, maybe.
He did call himself a Genghis Khan lookalike today at school. So
I did, yeah.
Which is a weird thing to say.
No, well, it was weird when I started promoting Genghis Khan.
Yeah,
He's like not from what he did, but the
cool
commitment to his craft.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
The mass rapings or the conquering?
No, just this is what I said.
Okay, I'm listening.
If I could be as successful,
okay,
a tenth as successful in anything as he was in what he wanted to do,
which was raping and
murdering. Uniting the Mongols and all.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna let that one go before we both get fired.
Yeah,
I feel like we're treading into dangerous.
Red Gauge just lost all sponsorships.
They don't Genghis Khan.
Okay.
I was just trying to say I wanted to be successful.
Yeah.
You guys took it way too far. You and Jesus. You guys didn't like the Jesus pick.
It was I want to fly, but you can walk on water. So.
Sorry.
Didn't do anything right here.
I apologize.
Go back to talking about hips. Hips
That's what
and
the
nips.
people are here for.
Hips and nips. Is that what you're saying?
There we go.
Knees.
Hips and nips.
Oh,
knees.
Knees to nips.
Knees to nips. Got time together.
Knees and titties.
I'm gonna cut that out.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Not
that
good.
was bad.
0 for 3 today.
That's not 0 for 3. That's not 0 for 3.
Knees to titties, and then the Jesus thing, and then your Genghis Khan fascination.
They were all bad.
Yeah.
You guys could all go to hell.
All right. Do you have advice for trainers coming up? I mean, I know that you're a year and a half into it, so you'll probably feel a lot different about it in 10 years. But like, if you were to give day one Gable advice about being a trainer and working with kids.
Well, it depends, because some of them are working in college. And so in college, you have a lot more trainers around you where you can count on them. For me, I'm kind of on an island.
Yeah.
And so that was all the other trainers that I was in class with. None of them wanted to be in high school.
Oh, okay.
That is the worst possible thing. What are you doing?
The guy that Gable gets to work with is me.
Yeah.
Just let that soak in.
The Genghis Khan enjoyer. Yeah.
I didn't say I enjoy him or anything he did.
But to give advice to, I would make sure you're experiencing a bunch of different areas of athletic training. Like when I was at WSU, they made sure to, you're going to observe a high school, you're going to go observe a PT clinic, going to go observe a small college, a WSU college. And so I got to experience lots of different things. And so I kind of knew what I liked. Like, okay, high school is what I wanted to do. And so if you're an athletic training student that doesn't get to do that, I would make sure, go intern for a year. And so intern is when I was at Gonzaga, I had someone that I would talk to for help, but mainly I was on my own. Versus at WSU, I was a full-on student. I would always talk to them. Like, I can't make my own decisions. I'm a student.
Right.
And so it was kind of that middle ground where I go from a student to an intern to full-time at a high school all by myself.
Right.
And so getting to bridge that gap. But if I went from student athletic trainer to high school athletic trainer without any intern, I don't think I'd be as successful at all right now. And so be able to bridge that gap so I can gradually build that confidence. Just like any other job, you go to a random job when you're 24 and never worked it before, you're going to be nervous.
Yeah.
And so, but I got a lot of people that are really good. The AD, I like a lot. Josh does a pretty good job sometimes.
Sometimes.
I do a pretty good job sometimes.
How many state titles you got, Josh?
Yeah.
9.
Out of how many years?
Well, it was 9.
Yeah.
Are you in the Hall of Fame for Shelton yet? Or
no, I'm
who's
not.
on that committee?
I tried me.
Me
and
yeah, you
Cofield,
can never vote
basically.
yourself back in.
Yeah.
Oh, for the wall?
Yeah. He won't put himself on the wall.
I'm not going to put him up there either.
Yeah,
I know.
Let's not do it.
I'm not as engaged in the weight room though as I used to be. So
Under
But I said it like I could put myself in it.
under the accolades, just put Genghis Khan in or something like that.
I would just name the damn thing the Monroe Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
we were talking about Genghis Khan like a week ago because
This is really making me seem like someone that likes Genghis Khan. Hold on, I'm saying this. I drew a picture of myself for Lacy. I go into his office, and while he's working, I draw stupid photos or mess with his background on his computer.
Oh,
I drew one. I held it up. I said, this kind of looks like Genghis Khan. And then somehow I became the freaking criminal of the century.
Anyway, point of my story is, when I was going through school, we had a whole unit on Genghis Khan, and it was all just about what a great conqueror and what's the word? Strategist and everything. And, like how he'd like have his daughters marry nobles and stuff, and like he had this whole system for consolidating power. And it's just an interesting bit of like how history is, sanitized for students sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I remember being like 24 or 25 and just like casually reading something, and it was, talked a little bit about the Mongolian Empire, and then it was like, oh my God, this guy was horrible. He was a terrible, no good, very bad man,
Yeah, it's like Bill Cosby.
We're
I
getting worse and worse.
Oh, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. He's a
the
bad
Kool-Aid guy and everything.
Yeah.
He thought he was a good guy. Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
right? No, it wasn't Kool-Aid. It was Jello.
No,
Jello.
I
The Jello
thought it was a popsicle.
pudding.
Yeah,
that
pudding
just like
pudding
a-
pops.
Jello pudding. Yeah.
Okay.
Who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
He was
know
putting
either.
a little stuff in the pudding.
I had a good friend who wanted to be a physical therapist. And so he went and did his whole first 3 years of college. And at the end, he got to do his first internship, which I think is a crime. Anytime that you want to do a profession and it's a 4-year program, I feel like they should get you in the door early.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he went to do his internship, and he came to see me one day, and he was like, 96% of the people don't do the work. Right. And he was an athlete, so he'd had his little aches and pains, and he knew how valuable the physical therapy was. And it was something like he couldn't get it. Like he changed professions. He was like, okay, I'm doing something different now.
Yeah.
Does it wear on you at all? Like when you have kids who, especially maybe like, if they got talent or if they got something that doesn't need to bug them for the rest of their life and they won't do it. And like, what's that like for you as a person, as a trainer?
It definitely doesn't bother me as much when a kid doesn't really put any effort into the sport. If they don't put any effort, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna feel bad about that. Like you can get whatever you want to put out. But there's a kid that really wants to be involved in sport, really wants to be really good, but as soon as it comes to rehab, then that gets me a little irritated. I'm like, come on, we got something here. If we just work on this, we'll get you back.
Right.
And that's a hard thing. Is like we got to be. It's a grind. I get it. I've did it before. I've done it with athletes many times. But you got to like the grind of rehab just as much as you like your sport, and then you'll love your sport even more.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, the same thing about learning to love the weight room. Like, as soon as you realize that effort pays, as soon as you realize that that there's gold on the other side, then all of a sudden it feels worth it. But it is hard to go through 6 or 12 or 18 weeks of,
And if you're an athlete in that situation, you probably don't see any of those signs. But like, oh, we've increased our knee flexion or knee extension by 3 degrees last week. This is amazing. Like, we're only missing 5 degrees now. Like we're great now.
Doesn't work on Instagram. Like plus 3% on knee flexion, baby.
You're getting 0 likes.
I'll like it spiritually.
Yeah.
But
trying to
from a
get
distance.
Kids to see the progress that is probably to untrained eye is hard to see.
Yeah.
And so like, no, you're no longer walking with your hip internally rotated. You're actually walking with your knees over toes, or you're squatting with your back able to sit up straight instead of curling all the way down with your spine arched and stuff like that. And so trying to point those things out usually helps those athletes see, and then maybe this might be helping a little bit, and then they never do it again after that. But
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
You got any more questions?
I think I'm good.
I'm running out of gas.
I talk to him every day.
Yo,
Yes.
so you
I
guys
treat
know
him
each
like
other well.
I treat him like my doctor. Like this last football season, I was in there We had a program where he knew how bad my day was by how I was lying on the training table. If I was completely face down, mouth, everything, basically.
And these are soft training tables. So his face is like fully encased up to here. So you can't see. He's just, it's like, are you still alive?
Those are the worst days.
Yeah.
Some days I would be on my side.
Uh-huh.
I think one day I was on my back.
It was only once, though.
Yeah.
A lot more times you're laying face down, and I had to go nudge every once in a while.
Make sure I was still.
So physical therapist and emotional counselor.
He's my family
He
doctor.
just calls me the
Yeah.
doctor of everything.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
But
It's good. I also practice
I have my
medicine.
prostate check soon. All right, Gable.
All right. Well,
We do that one off school grounds. That's not happening
good save.
at the school.
Good save.
Yeah.
Good save. We're
yeah,
doing it.
is
We're
this
actually
an important
doing it
time to
after
put
this.
a disclaimer in and
Yeah.
be like, we're just kidding, you
I
know.
grab a glove.
Josh is not a monster.
As I'm standing in front of the school board and they're playing these clips.
yeah.
You said here you like Genghis Khan.
Yeah. Those are
And then
jokes.
you mentioned Bill
We're just
Cosby,
being silly.
so-
Listen,
No.
you're listening to a podcast with Monroe, man. It's going to get weird.
It's
I
gonna-
feel like I did pretty well
That's
today.
good. Yeah.
There
We
was
did-
way weirder thoughts in my head.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't go as off the rails as I was expecting.
Yeah.
You did good.
Yeah.
Just getting
It's
used to
okay.
this. This is only our third podcast, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, third episode. You have 3 different podcasts you have?
No, I do.
Cofield does.
Yeah.
Cofield starts a business once a week. And then he's like, I don't have any fucking time.
New business time. You want to do a business?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
Will you be my business?
Will you be my business?
I'm trying to enjoy my day every day till 1:30.
Uh-huh.
Just be a nerd, and so yeah.
Okay. I'll rope
Oh.
you in.
Get him on your other podcast. This
Oh,
is a
yeah.
young man who loves Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, important question: tank or healer? Which is more valuable,
Which is more valuable?
the tank or a healer?
What system?
Nope. You don't get any more information.
That's all you
on that.
get. Tank or healer? Which one is more valuable?
As I prefer to play the healer tank, I find this a really conflicting
Nope.
situation.
You're
Pick one.
a healer that's squishy, or you're a tank with no healing. That's all you get.
It's a bad decision making that led to that situation. Healer.
You jumped off a fucking rock quarry, dude. Into rocks. Not into water. Just off a 25-foot cliff.
I was a kid. It might have been
This
like
is some-
18 feet. I
this
mean,
is
you
some
know.
Bad decision
Your
making.
self-preservation, which is not there at all.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
tanks should be healers.
yeah. All tanks should be healers.
A healer? Oh boy. I don't know when this started, but I started having this conversation with every athlete that came in the training room every
Okay.
day. And they had, what? What are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
And so, one of my best ongoing jokes is one of the football players who found out that me and Coach Geraldus played D&D together. He's like, yeah, I play D&D too. And so now he just asks random people if they want to play D&D. So one day in the training room, boys basketball was having a game, and it's like against like Timberline or something. So it's Tacoma school. And he walked up to this random kid on the bench. This kid is like 6'3" and
During the
huge.
game?
No,
Oh.
like right in warm-ups. So all everyone else, he's got like his headphones in. So he nudged him to take his headphones off. He said, hey, you want to join my D&D session? And the kid went, no.
No.
And all of us over there were just dying laughing. So,
Oh. Which is the correct answer.
yeah.
No, the correct answer is yes.
Yeah.
But I play Pathfinder, not D&D. Pathfinder's a better
that's-
game.
You should-
I looked up the rules for that, and
It's-
It's better.
it just makes you want to fight.
I've done
GM,
both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I have emotional problems, all
You
right?
do.
Like,
You do.
God.
D&D is so much easier to get into.
How do you know? You never played the other one.
I looked at it, and it was like, oh, there's 20 different things you can do.
Looking at anything
20,000
of
different
that
things.
size
No.
would be daunting.
Not a D&D player sheet. So easy to
It
start.
is so
No.
the same thing.
No, it's not.
This has gone off the rails. No one cares about this. No.
We'll chop this all out.
Are we done with the episode? Just edit all this and then just weirdly it jumps and we're like, bye.
Maybe I'll put it in like fast forward. So it's just
That's basically what we sound like to everyone that doesn't know D&D anyway. So,
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's all right to be nerdy,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You have to convince me. I'm in. I'm a math teacher.
Yeah, you teach calculus.
Yeah.
It's not even the
You're a
normal people
calculus
math.
teacher?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I probably should have assumed, but I didn't know that.
We almost have zero crossover of students.
I'm sure.
between the calculus department and the weight room.
Yeah, I got a couple.
That should change.
You would have had a couple. You would have had a lot when I was in high school.
Mm.
Of all the boys in calculus when I was a senior,
The level to get into calculus when you're in high school is,
Monroe's making value judgments.
I'm gonna tell Jimmy Yee you said that.
Jimmy E's the shit. We should have Jimmy E as a sponsor. Isn't he worth like $7 zillion now?
He probably is by now. To talk about someone starting a business, start to that guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he starts his own business, and then someone else liked how good he did his business and hired him to do theirs. And so, yeah, talk to that guy.
We should just hire him to do the podcast.
Yeah.
We leave, and it's just Jimmy.
I like this guy already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you've never met Jimmy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I used to help out at the, when did you graduate?
2017.
No, okay, so I wasn't still helping out at the weight room then.
Yeah, I never met you before, I don't think, when I was in high school.
Yeah. No, you did. You did.
I thought it was afterwards.
That's
when I
embarrassing.
No,
I'm
you
pretty
did.
sure
You met me.
when my sister was in high school, my dad had me meet you while I was in college, and I was like 2018, 2019.
Nope. I met you in 2006.
So you were, what, 6?
8.
8.
Yeah, you're 8. Yeah.
Oh,
That's when we met.
I met you when you were 4.
I was helping out at the high school, at the old weight room. And
well, I was in there when I was 8.
I don't know, you were there to see your dad for some reason. I don't know.
Huh.
I wasn't in the weight room. I was in the mini dome.
Your dad
I
was
was like, "What's
probably
up,
having
Lacy?"
Kids do neck circles and wrist curls or something.
Yeah.
70 sets of 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, to be fair, my dad's neck is this, and so he might do that.
You know what? We need to get your dad on here. Sit him in that chair.
He'll freak out.
Like small.
Sit him in that chair, and then we'll compare necks. He'll know that it's
He
all
won't
been a
be able to
ruse.
get back there.
Because my neck is bigger than his neck.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It will be in this scenario.
Yeah.
No one's neck is bigger than his neck. Isn't bigger than his neck.
You're not going to be able to get him in here. He's going to be too claustrophobic. He's going to
Yeah,
freak
he'll
out.
attack us and ruin the whole studio. But just
How do
for
I look
that
You
now?
won't
one
get him
thing-
past the door.
Yeah, you look tiny.
Oh,
You look like one of the gnomes from your guys' D&D game.
What
The
are you
last
saying,
7
your
minutes
guys?
of this has been so bad. We're not providing any content that's useful for
No,
anybody.
we've just started talking again.
Yeah.
That's the best content. Listen, if you made it this far, that's your fault.
yeah.
Go to the next episode. Don't.
No, it's really important that you keep going. We'll do what normal people on YouTube, you got to wait to the end. There's something good.
It'll be the one frame where we don't Photoshop your arm to look big.
Yeah. We switch spots. Oh, he's really 160 pounds.
Yeah.
With that neck, it looks like it.
My neck is huge.
Huge.
Look at that. It's bigger than the beard. And my beard is huge.
Going the wrong way.
Stuck on the carpet. Yeah, what is that?
My
First
neck
off-
is way bigger than my beard.
Your beard, you messed your beard cut up there underneath there.
Where?
When he looks straight up.
No, it's
Really
pretty good. I think it looks good.
No, right there.
I think Monroe is wrong.
Right?
Sure.
Yep. Nope. Yep.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Is that just like a spot?
Are your eyes all right?
No.
He's so far back he can't see that.
Yeah.
We just disappear into the curtains.
It is so strange how small you look. My head is 3 times bigger than yours. What? My mic sounds funny right now, but.
But all right.
Now we're just
Right.
having fun.
All right. This is the end. Gable, one thing we've learned is we can't start or end an episode of this. It's incredibly
You guys
difficult.
got to watch just some random, like the Bad Friends podcast that I watched, comedy podcast. They just say, thank you for being a bad friend or something dumb like that. So you got to mix in like Red Gauge or something to put in the end.
Okay.
It's like, they call it Bad Friends. Thank you for being a bad friend at the end. Yeah, you have to work on it. 'Cause
Keep your gauge in the red.
That's not even that good of advice.
No, it's not. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Put the gauge
Don't
in
do
the red
that.
sometime.
keep
Yeah.
your gauge in the red. That means they keep having to get your supplements.
We don't support the actions of Genghis Khan or Bill Cosby.
Is every
Really clearly.
episode?
Really clearly.
That's that's the end of every episode.
They're terrible people. Terrible people.
The last
Those are-
3 minutes is just you talking bad about them every single time.
Yeah, like let's just be clear.
Yeah.
These are people we don't support.
Yeah.
And just pick new people
Every time.
Harvey
Mussolini.
Weinstein. P. Diddy.
This makes me uncomfortable.
Why? Why does that make you? Are you
support
afraid
Hitler?
that you're going to be on the list or
Yeah.
something?
No.
Are you afraid that if we don't say somebody, it makes us look like we do support them?
You haven't
know.
said Hitler yet, so I figured that would have been number 2. But
Too obvious. You don't need to say
Too obvious.
that.
Yeah.
What kind of freak is saying they're liking Hitler, Gable? Jesus Christ.
there goes my job.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting fired.
I mean, he is.
You're on the same podcast.
I didn't say anything.
That's
you
true.
should hear Kyle when the mics are off.
I get a little spicy sometimes.
No, I don't think it's legally.
Incriminating?
Yeah, you can't fire us, Shelton School District. Try it. Not God himself. God himself couldn't get rid of me.
SHS polo, and I was like, no, probably shouldn't wear that.
Yeah.
I've put myself in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you're the one who decides, so it works.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Kids, do your rehab
And prehab.
and prehab.
Do it before you're even hurt.
Yeah.
And so,
How much of a time commitment should prehab be?
we're going
5
back into
minutes, 10
content.
minutes? Yeah. I'm curious
Yeah.
again now.
Jesus, now you can't cut it out. That's
Yeah, I
all
can.
in
I
there.
can cut it
No,
out.
let's go. Let's jump back in there.
well, most of the time, if it's working with me, I'm probably not going to be able to work one-on-one unless there's one kid in the training room, which Josh can tell that
Not very
rarely
often.
happens.
Yeah.
And so if it's that, it's like 10, 15 minutes maybe.
Okay.
Like I'm giving them 5 to 8 exercises, doing it a couple times. I'm really focused on not them going fast. So they're just trying to blaze through it. Okay, you're doing 3 today. That's it. And so
Yeah.
just that every day. And then, because I mean, when you go to college, that's what they do every single time.
Yeah.
So like, hey, I want to be a high level athlete. Okay, well you got to do high level things that athletes do. You got to eat right, drink right, get enough water, do your rehab.
Move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and anybody in the weight room since you've been there, like I've definitely added. I've seen more of the value of prehab.
Yeah.
You know, so I've added lots of prehab.
I don't think a single male athlete did yoga at all when I was there.
Right.
And now they do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Yeah, I do a little prehab on leg day. You know, got a couple exercises I like to crank through.
mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I feel like I'm 40. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to do a really good job with my shoulder rehab. Otherwise, it's not happening. So
Yeah. That's the surprise to me is I dislocated both shoulders, my right shoulder twice, and neither one of them is like mad at me anymore.
When did
they
this
feel
happen?
Fine. 14, 16.
About 4.6 seconds after jumping off the fucking quarry wall.
That was a long walk
Holy
home, man.
fucking-
You want to talk about having a day, dislocate your hip and then try to walk home. That was
how long of a
brutal.
walk was it?
A mile and a half.
Which is the longest Cofield's ever walked.
Yeah. Yeah, that was about the end of my range for wandering around in the woods.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, so I had to go home. I didn't have any choice. It was either go home or die in the quarry all by myself. It was abandoned quarry. Nobody used it anymore. There wasn't anybody there was no trucks coming to, be like, oh, look, there's a boy laying here.
I've said too many crazy
I
jokes.
didn't like
I'll-
where that was going.
I'll-
I instinctually thought, Monroe, don't say anything.
It's only so many you could put in an episode.
Yeah.
The same for next time.
Yeah.
Bring that. You got to say that same story on the next episode.
The same one?
So I can tell that joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw where it was going as soon as he perked up as soon as he said that.
It would have been good too.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been good.
It would have made you feel
His jokes are
uncomfortable.
jokes are pretty good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, I guess we'll end it on that.
Red gauge out.
Red gauge. Dude, can we put them all
I
together?
think you guys should switch
No, I'm not
seats.
holding hands with you.
You guys should switch seats just so everything tell. Or do you always sit in the middle?
No, usually we sit on
Normally
either
sit.
side.
It's kind of like this.
Okay, so you look a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, look how small I am all of a sudden.
You guys should just start sitting that close to each other every time.
I'm like trying to peek up over
Wait.
the microphone.
No, this is great for my
Yeah.
mind. You know what I mean?
We both look at least 6'5".
Yeah.
I am 6'5".
You're not.
247.
My shoulders look like they're 4 feet wide.
Yeah, it's good. It's
And
good
your
vibe.
neck looks maybe 4 inches wide.
Oh. All right, are we done? This
It's
is
weird that I am by far the biggest one in the room.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
it by far.
By
Not even-
far.
You are not by far.
40 pounds
Oh.
heavier than you.
By far. Well, they
No,
can't
no.
see your gut.
He's way bigger than you.
Shoulders.
He's way
Listen,
bigger than you.
Well, if we're talking percentages, Kyle is by, yes, not by far, but he is the largest human in this room, and he's the strongest, and he fucking did all these things, jumped off quarry walls.
Yeah.
Monroe's never jumped off a quarry wall. By far is a little ridiculous. Ask him who won the pressing competition we had.
The one competition that he
He's
ever
by
won.
far bigger than you.
Yeah.
I beat him in
Let's go have a second pressing
Hercules
competition.
press.
I got those Hercules
I'm
dumbbells.
retired.
You should do a
I'd probably
dunking
get one.
contest or a squat or a
Making fun of my knees?
yeah.
I'll put these knees on camera. They look big as shit here.
Compared to your calves.
That was really good.
Talk about
roasted you.
talk about
Give that man a pin. Give that man a pin. Let him click that thing.
No, it's so noisy. Give me that back. Don't.
I just
you
marked
stop it
myself
right
so
now.
many times.
Yeah, you good.
yeah.
All
You
right,
had it coming.
We've finished this 3 times.
Sure.
We've finished this 3 times. Can we?
I'm getting a little punchy. Do you think because it's 8 o'clock at night,
You think
I'm
it's only
losing
8
it.
o'clock?
It's 7:40.
7:40? I can
It's
see the time
7
right there on the big
Oh,
There's a
I've
large
not looked at that.
timer. It
Oh,
says
we didn't start.
7:41 p.m.
We started early.
Yeah.
I was like, we've only been on for 70 minutes. I felt like that went for longer.
Been on
than
for
that.
1:30.
90.
I can't see that either. 90.
Yeah.
That's a cold 90 right at there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cold 90. Chris.
Now we're at minute 31.
gonna hit
It was
we're
not
gonna
a crisp 90. That was
91 right there.
that
91.
was 42 seconds of content.
Uh-huh.
I think we started talking about D&D at like what? 109?
113. 113. It was 113, yeah.
That's
We're 20.
18 minutes.
oh god. Oh man.
We're a long ways into
What
stuff
if-
that I'm going to cut.
Okay. No way. I told you. I mean,
Yeah, Tanker Healer as an Instagram post.
Yeah.
You can vote on it.
You
There you
can't-
go.
It can't be cut.
I bet you there's a huge overlap, too, between...
Listen, if there's anything I know, it's that this is what the people are tuning in for.
Yeah. They probably just fast forwarded this until we got to the
Yeah,
113.
they were like, advice.
What if we go to YouTube and most replayed starts at 113, and they're like, we're doing this.
Just put a footnote at 113. This is when the good stuff starts.
A podcast at all bant.
Where we make fun of Josh's small calves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
His
it's
puffy
ginormous knees.
Puffy knees and
They're
tiny
not
calves.
ginormous. Listen, the calves they have a fit look. Yes, they're not the largest
Tell me
things.
this doesn't sound like someone with small calves when he talks about the fit.
Listen, I have colossally small calves. I have a petite bone structure.
Petite.
all right?
Besides the knees.
The knees aren't big. They're just bony.
And your brow is not petite.
I probably there's something else that ain't petite.